All right. Welcome to wait, where are we? Oh, that's right, class. All right, so research. We are on research, and if you don't know how to research, then you'll be having a tough time in life. Okay? So let's talk about research. Why do we do research? Okay? Well, a couple reasons why we don't just trust people and their opinions. Okay, so what we're trying to do when we're doing research is we're finding out, okay, why are we doing this? What does research give us? What's some of the things that you've learned through research or that have been discovered through research? Really, when we're researching, we're trying to do a couple things, right? So we're trying to gain insight and or establish credibility. Okay, and I want, since we have, I think 4 or 5 entrepreneurship majors in this class, I would venture to guess or to say that research is the number one reason why startups fail. And you hear about team and people and whatever, and I think that's has part to do, but I think that's uh, I can't think of a smaller word, a tertiary part of the entrepreneurial venture. So let me give you an example on research and why it fails. It's not that people aren't doing research, they just don't do it correctly. One example of how, this is for you entrepreneurship guys, the rest of you, if you want to hit fast forward, I understand, but I like to, help give you some insight into your futures. And I think this is also very important for those of you in the career who are looking for a career to also do research on their career. So, 2 examples. I was lucky enough to harvest a couple companies and do all right. For some reason, people think I'm good at parts of research, and just because I got lucky a couple times doesn't mean that you know, I know everything. But I do know this: that research was key to both of my ventures. And when I've done my research, I found out that okay, people do it, but they do it wrong usually. So here are the 2 examples. My brother wanted to build a house, and to afford it, he needed to have a basement rental. Don't think that's a great financial decision, but whatever. Okay. So he came to me. He's like, Scott, how is the rental market in Mapleton? What can I charge? I said, well, here's what I would do. When's your house gonna be done? He said about 9 months. I said, okay, well, put a fake apartment up on KSL.com, which is a website or Rentler or whatever the heck it is, and then put a price point on there and say it's available in 9 months. Okay. And so and I said that'll drive you to the decision for you to either build a certain size house or not. And then also, if you have a signed rental contract, it will help for lending on the property. So he did that, KSL, and first one I put for like $700 or something, a 2-bedroom place in Mapleton, and then he had like, I don't know, like 100 text messages. He put it for around 1,400, and then he got, I think, one maybe. So he ended up renting his apartment 9 months in advance for I think around $1,200, and he's that's how he did his house. So that was great research. He found, I want to do this with this quote business idea, and then he tested that research and found out that he couldn't. 700 was too little, 1,400 is too high, 1,200 is where he started to get more in the sweet spot and rented it, and $1,200 a month is a pretty good basement rental. Second was another business ventures. My other brother, I have 5 brothers. There's a lot of brothers. My other brother asked me about a business venture that he wanted to do. Okay, he said, "I want to sell quail to falcon breeders, and I need some land. And can you buy me the land?" And I said, "No, I think that's a dumb idea." I said, "But if you can do this, if you can sell, I made him do the math, and I said, if you could sell $20,000 worth of contracts a month, and that'll pay for the land and the all your supplies, etc., plus give you about $15,000 to $17,000 a month in income, said, if you can sell $20,000 worth of contracts, then I'll buy you the land. And within 2 weeks, he had done that, right? And so that was good research. He had a an idea, and then researched that idea through validation, through market validation. And so when you guys are doing your research, you've got to figure out not just, okay, I need to do, quote, research, but you need to find out a way to ask the right types of questions and then to validate that research by what you're doing. And some of you in your business article are going to find out that you have this idea, why does this happen? And you have an idea and you find research that only validates one side of the story, your side, and you're not actually getting a broad view. And that's kind of what the next thing is about, right? So how do you actually gain insight? Is insight just one-sided? Is it two-sided? Try to find all the arguments. And with research, gaining insight is a process that takes a lot of time. And what that'll help you do when you do when you do start doing research, is you'll start to notice these nuggets of information trickle in. Okay? And they don't just come in all at once. And so gaining insight helps you do a couple different things. And so the most important thing that you need to do, is establish credibility. So how do you establish credibility? And you may be asking yourself, why are there these three people here? Well, I put in establish credibility in Google Images, and these three people came up. So apparently you need these three people to establish credibility. I don't know. Maybe they're talking about diversity? Not sure. But okay. So how you establish credibility is first is you figure out how to be unbiased, right? Your research needs to be unbiased, and that's exactly what we were just talking about, barely saying that you can't just find what you want to find and then validate your argument, or get it from websites that are crap or don't pass the CRAP test. And we'll go through the CRAP test here in a second, but finding unbiased sources to validate the information that you're gathering is key to doing that. Okay. Also, that's thorough, so you don't just deal with one side of the issue, you deal with the second side of the issue, and you delve into those issues with all the research that's available for those topics. So for example, my guess is, not really my guess, but a lot of you are doing COVID effect on whatever, right? Supply chain, blockchain, okay, Zoom, video conferencing, how it's changed. A lot of COVID type stuff. That's a tough one to be, it's a good topic, but it's a tough one to extrapolate into what's going to happen in the future. And so how you be thorough on that is, you bring in the past, the present, and the research on both sides, right? Would it be good to just cite sources from, the HTC, right? No, because they have one opinion. It would be great just to talk about Germany's model for handling the COVID and how it's going to affect. No. So you need to have, multiple countries, multiple different industries, and how that would affect them, versus just saying, okay, COVID's going to affect them X and this is why, and just look at one stream of research. So you need to be very thorough in your research. And then obviously the last one is that the sources that you're using, not only are they unbiased and that you're being thorough, but they're also reliable sources. Okay, so they're peer reviewed or from, your Wall Street Journal type places, or, well, even Wall Street Journal has some, but they're from places that can most likely be trusted. And then you go through the back end and do your research to make sure that it's coming from a reliable source. And that's how you establish credibility. And when I look at your business articles, I'm going to see, if you make a claim, X amount of people did this or whatever, then I would look at that source and say, well, did they do their homework? Did they, X amount of people, was the sample size, big enough to extrapolate? Was it representative of a population? Was, the website you got it from, was it unbiased, or are they just kind of making stuff up? And sometimes what looks legit is not, right? Okay, so let's go through the CRAP analysis. I hope that you guys did this little exercise in the chapter 6.1, or not 6. Anyway, in chapter 6. Okay, so if you haven't done it, make sure and go into the book. Do it quickly. It'll take you like 10, maybe 15 minutes. before you start the rest of this video. Okay, so current, reliable, I'm sorry. Okay, so your C.R.A.P test, there we go. Okay, went through these different websites right here. Okay, oops, go back. Sorry about that. Okay, so you have the BLS.gov, the Accounting Onion, Cato, DHMO, Global Edge, and Information Beautiful. I think they added another one on there since I put this slide deck together. But let's go through these and see whether they pass the C.R.A.P test. What is the C.R.A.P test? The C.R.A.P test is a way of evaluating sources to make sure that you can use the sources. Okay, that the information that they're giving you is valid, right? Okay, so here we go. BLS.gov. Oh, sorry, the accounting oven. The accounting oven. All right, so is it current, liable? Yeah, is it current? Maybe, right? Yeah, it seems like that's okay. But the problem with this one is, though, is this one biased? Maybe, but if you can see over here, okay, that he's selling a bunch of stuff on here, and even though if you go through his background, the Tom, I think it's Tom Selling or something like that, he is a solid accountant and would be good to have glean an opinion from. But if you were going to say GAAP and the federal budget, let's just go through that one right there. This is how GAAP is going to affect the federal budget, and you cited him as a reliable source and how it's going to work. And that might not be the best because he's only one opinion and he may have some biases in there. Is it a good thing to check or to fact check against? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe use some of his sources that he's using, but again, he is one accounting professor, and there are many other opinions out there, so you want to double check here. And he's selling stuff, right? Okay. All right. So this is BLS. Does this pass the C.R.A.P test? Yes. Okay. If anything does or should, it's government websites. Are they unbiased? They should be. Right? Are they? Well, if they are biased, then technically they'd get sued. So a lot of their information should be unbiased. So if you're looking for something like, okay, so what's the largest county for wage gain, right? And you looked at this side, Santa Cruz, California has the largest county fourth quarter gain. This would be a reliable source for that because they're unbiased. They have good data. If they don't have those types of things, then they'll get sued, and so they do their best to be unbiased and thorough on the in the numbers that they give. Obviously, they're not selling anything, and it's a bunch of different authors that are involved in these projects. Okay. All right, let's go to the Cato Institute. Does this one pass the C.R.A.P test? Answer is sort of. The answer is most likely no. Why? Well, because it's biased, right? What it would pass the C.R.A.P test for is Cato is a libertarian think tank. So if you were making an argument based on libertarian morals or libertarian principles, you could say libertarians believe X, Y, Z, and cite Cato Institute. That would pass the C.R.A.P test. But if you said America believes X, Y, Z, and then cited the Cato Institute, then obviously that wouldn't be a valid source for that because they're biased. They're paid to be, by the libertarians. Okay, so that wouldn't necessarily be a good source use for that. All right, let's keep going. DHMO. Hopefully you went through this, but one of my favorites, note right here, you can see it. The content veracity not implied, which means is that the dihydrogen monoxide research division, although looks very convincing, right? Especially when they're selling South Park. If they, this is obviously a website you can just skip over, but it's just there. It looks something like, dihydrogen monoxide. It's just there to tell you that the web can give you lots of crap. Okay? All right, this is the one that fools some people sometimes, right? The global edge. So it's a .edu, right, which is a good sign. But the problem with this is that as much as I love you students, and I love me, I guess I love myself, and I am not currently an expert in researching X or Y or Z, whatever it is, right? So I don't have peer-reviewed I don't have peer-reviewed publications, none of that stuff, right? So the students here, although well-meaning, this does not pass the CRAP test because they're students, and this isn't peer-reviewed. What it could be helpful for is finding additional sources, kind of like Wikipedia, right? Go to Wikipedia. You don't cite Wikipedia and say Wikipedia says X, right? You go to the sources at the bottom and check out to see whether those sources are valid. And that's exactly what I do here. If you did something on COVID and how it is affecting, student outcomes in the, whatever year in 2020, or affecting graduation rates, etc., then then this would be a solid tool to just find additional sources, but I wouldn't take their analysis as, as passing the CRAP test. Okay. All right. Information is beautiful. Obviously, this is not going to pass the CRAP test because unless there is a caveat there, unless you click on something like coronavirus myths and misconceptions. If you click through here and clicked on the sources of the data, and that data actually did show that it came from, let's just say, from the BLS and from HTC and from some of these big government agencies, and they show you the data set, not just show you the source, but you actually have access to the data set, and they populate that into one of these infographics, then that actually might be a solid source, but you wouldn't be citing necessarily information is beautiful. It depends, right, where it comes from, but you'd want to find out and dig and make sure that that source that is there, where the data comes from, is a legitimate source. Okay, so a lot of these appeared like, oh, they seem okay and they seem good, but when you go dig into them, like the Missouri State the student database and the Cato Institute, when you dug into those, that realized they're either biased or they weren't reliable sources of information for certain things. And that's what we'll be looking for on your business article, is that your sources actually, what you're saying and the claims you're making in the paper, the sources are past the CRAP test. And now, let's get into life a little bit for 2 seconds, okay? If you're building your life on the research of others, right? That's not good research. For example, there's this thing that we used to say, and it was kind of an interesting thing that now, you go to Snopes.com and you can check this out. But there used to be called wives' tales, right? So you'd hear something from a mom that tried something and it worked. And so you do it, like castor oil before, if you want to induce labor or whatever it is. These very unscientific wives' tales. And what would happen is people would make these choices, that make life choices on wives' tales. Or you'd make a life choice based on a marketing campaign saying you need to look better in this way because this mascara, or you need to wear makeup, or you need to wear this dress, or whatever it is. And so you're buying information without doing your research. And what happens is, if you can't become a good researcher, is that you'll get stuck in somebody else's world that they've created and you're trying to mimic, right? And there's no happiness there. There just isn't, right? Where happiness comes from is designing a life together with someone who knows a lot about life, and that someone, in my belief system, is God. you design your life together, and you do your research, and you validate your research, and you read things that help you from reliable sources, like the scriptures and good books, and you have conversations and do your research with people who could be mentors or guides or spiritual leaders or whatever it is, that to actually design a life around solid research versus just taking someone's word for it. It may sound good, it may give you chills when they say it or whatever, right? But follow those notions up with solid research. Okay? Anyway, thought I'd give you a life tip there. And this may be my longest video so far. So if you've made it this far, great! If I'm on 2 times speed, sorry, I'll talk slower. Just kidding, I won't do that to you. I'm sorry. That was rude. Anyway, okay, so let's talk about the last thing is when you do cite sources, you find solid research, just like you wouldn't, well, I don't know whether you would or not, but you shouldn't go to a movie and steal the content, right? Or have a song, and pirate the song without citing, those types of things. Or say a saying and say it belongs to you when obviously it doesn't, right? You need to give them the credit where credit is due. So I figured I'd give you a couple paraphrasing examples, good and bad examples, and show you the difference. So go ahead and hit pause and read this. Okay. So you can see how they cite it there, paraphrase it, and again, that wouldn't be a problem at all. Okay. You could also summarize it, but even if you summarize it, you still need to cite it. What happens is we see some of this on the bottom. And if that does happen, then you fail, right? You're smart enough, you've done enough schooling to realize that lifting text from others and citing and passing it off as your own, even in an educational setting, can be quite dangerous. Okay? If you want a good laugh, go watch any of the politicians who have been called out for plagiarizing other people's speeches without citing. Some of them make me laugh, and it's always good to laugh. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful. Again, research is key not only to this class, to the business article, especially those that want to get into academia. Research is what you'll be doing. Good research is also helpful for your life, that you understand how to research what it means to live a good life, right? And that's what I'm looking for when I'm hiring somebody. I'm looking for somebody that not only knows how to research whatever, but they're also introspective and they've thought about why they want to be at my company, why why this fits into their life plan, and it just radiates from these people. And these are the people that that also pick careers that they end up enjoying and are good at because they've done their research. And those of you who are entrepreneurs, obviously, if you know how to do solid research, you'll figure out one of two things. Number one, that the idea might work. Okay? If you do solid research, you'll find a lot more motivation to do things that might work. Second, if you don't, you'll spend a lot of time on things that just have no chance of succeeding. Okay? People do get lucky, but I would much rather get lucky and have my luck backed by solid research. I'd rather up my odds, right? Anyway, so hopefully it's helpful, and if you have questions or concerns or comments, or you disagree with what I'm presenting in some aspect, I'd love to hear it, and I hope you guys have a solid week.